All right, buckle up, everybody, because today we are diving deep, deep into the world of Ukraine's mineral resources.
Ooh, sounds fascinating.
It is, and their role in the global power struggle. I've been looking at some analysis you sent over.
There's some really interesting stuff.
Oh, absolutely. It's definitely not your typical good guys versus bad guys narrative, like
Yeah.
not even close.
No, not at
This
all.
deep dive is going to take us down a rabbit hole of secret deals and power grabs, potentially even like a whole new global order.
Wow, okay, I am ready. Lead the way.
Let's do it. So we're going to start with this really weird situation, right, involving Zelensky, Trump, and a mineral deal that totally fell apart.
Okay.
So back in 2019, Zelensky, he's desperate for U.S. support, right?
Makes sense.
But the analysis suggests that he actually offered Trump this massive deal, like a huge GE deal, worth, get this, $500 billion.
$500 billion.
$500 billion for Ukraine's mineral resources.
Wow, that's a lot of money. That's a huge deal. You'd think he would have jumped at that.
Right, exactly. So, like, why even offer it if you're not going to go through with it?
Yeah, that's a good question. What happened?
Well, the analysis suggests that Zelensky actually couldn't accept Trump's deal because he was already bound by, get this, a secret agreement with the UK.
A secret agreement? Oh, this is getting juicy.
I know, right? And get this, the smoking gun, like the proof, if you will,
Okay.
is a 100-year partnership agreement between the UK and Ukraine, signed just days before Trump even took office.
Wow. That timing seems a little suspicious, don't you think?
Super suspicious. And it's not even hidden or anything. It's right there on the UK government website.
So it's not even like a secret.
It's publicly available. Like, what are they trying to hide, you know?
Right. It's all very strange.
Okay, so now get ready for this because the analysis takes a big swing here.
Okay, lay on me.
It suggests that the UK, they wanted control over all of Ukraine's resources. We're talking gas, we're talking ports, titanium, everything.
Everything.
And they potentially wanted to use all of this as collateral. Yeah.
Collateral?
For their own financial system.
Interesting. That's a pretty big claim. I mean, it implies the UK is
Oh, it's huge.
really trying to, like, reshape the power dynamics in the region.
Exactly. And it gets even wilder. The analysis suggests that the
I mean,
UK...
there's more.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That they might even benefit from this whole conflict dragging on in Ukraine.
Really?
Even if Ukraine ends up losing. Because they could use that instability to weaken Russia.
So, like a modern day, what was it, the Opium Wars?
Oh, yes.
Where they purposely destabilized China for their own, economic gain.
That's a very bold interpretation. I mean, the UK has always been very vocal against Russia's actions.
Right, of course.
But their history, does make you wonder.
Oh, for sure. It's a very complex situation with a lot of different moving pieces, like so many. We've got the U.S. potentially being outmaneuvered here, the U.K. possibly playing the long game.
Yeah.
But wait, there's another player in this game we got to talk about, the European Union.
Ah, yes. The
Oh.
EU. They definitely have a role to play in all of this. They do. And their plan for Ukraine, it doesn't exactly line up with the UK's. Let's just say that.
Okay, so what's the EU's angle?
Well, the analysis suggests that the EU wants to lock down these like super lucrative reconstruction contracts
By themselves.
for European companies
Interesting.
by leveraging frozen Russian assets.
Ah, I see. So they're basically trying to position themselves to be the ones to rebuild Ukraine.
Exactly. And, potentially weaken Russia's influence at the same time. Two birds, one stone.
Smart. Very smart.
It is. But here's where things get really, really interesting. The analysis suggests that Trump, knowing how badly the UK and the EU both need U.S. support, might have intentionally played them against each other.
Oh, wow. So those diplomatic snubs the EU faced from the Trump administration.
Exactly. There weren't just random occurrences.
It was all part of his plan.
Maybe. It's possible he used all of that leverage to try and secure a better deal for the U.S.
And a deal that aligns more closely with his own vision for global politics.
100%. And here's the real kicker. The analysis suggests that the better deal Trump might have been aiming for, it involved Russia.
Russia.
Remember, Trump, he publicly praised Putin,
Yeah.
called him trustworthy, even said the EU was created to harm the U.S.
Right. I remember that. That was pretty controversial.
Very controversial. But if we follow the logic of this analysis,
It suggests that Trump might have seen Russia as a more reliable partner.
then the UK or the EU,
Wow. So instead of West good, Russia bad, it's more like,
it's a free-for-all.
yeah, Everyone's out for themselves.
Everyone's playing their own game.
And the lines between allies and adversaries,
they're completely blurred.
Yeah. This is a lot to think about. It's definitely not your typical news headline.
Definitely not. And it makes you wonder what's really going on behind the scenes, right?
Makes you think. A lot to think about.
Welcome back, everyone. Last time, things got pretty intense.
They did.
With that analysis of Ukraine's mineral resources and all those global power players making their moves. We covered a lot of ground. Secret deals, the US, the UK, the EU, everyone's motivations, even the idea that the world might be shifting away from, like, that old post-WWII order.
It's almost like a whole new world order is emerging right in front of us.
It's mind-blowing. And it leaves us with this big, like, what-if question hanging in the air, you know?
Yeah. What if this analysis is spot on? What happens then?
Exactly. What are the consequences of all this? So let's dive into some possible outcomes. Okay, so first up, if the UK is really using Ukraine to try and destabilize Russia, like that analysis suggests, it could mean that this conflict drags on even longer.
Oh, yeah, definitely. That's a scary thought.
And the risk of an even bigger war, a wider war, becomes a lot more serious, doesn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, even if they don't fully destabilize Russia, just having that constant tension and conflict makes it almost impossible to reach a lasting peace agreement.
Right. And think about what that means for Ukraine. Stuck in the middle of all of this.
Caught in the crossfire.
It's heartbreaking. And then there's NATO. If the UK is operating with its own agenda, like this secret agenda, can we really say that NATO is this united front anymore?
Yeah.
You know?
It definitely raises questions about that.
No.
But the future of NATO, especially with the U.S. seeming to pull back from all these traditional alliances.
It makes you wonder if those alliances are even that valuable anymore. You know?
There's a whole new world.
Totally. And then there's the EU with their sights set on those reconstruction contracts, remember?
Oh, yeah. Big money.
But what if the U.S. doesn't back them up? Could they actually pull that off by themselves?
It would be tough. I mean, the EU's got its own economic issues to deal with, right? I mean, securing those contracts and actually, like, getting them done would need a ton of U.S. support. Money, political backing, the whole 9 yards.
Totally. And it's almost like they're going all in on this hand that might not even win, you know?
That's a good analogy.
High stakes. And speaking of high stakes gambles, let's talk about Russia for a second, because this analysis paints a very different picture of Russia than we're used to seeing.
It does. Instead of being the aggressor, it's like they could actually come out on top.
Right. Remember, the analysis says that Trump saw Russia as a more reliable partner than the UK or the EU.
Yeah. A Russia that could offer stability and resources, even a good deal, without getting the U.S. involved in another drawn-out conflict.
Crazy, right? I mean, from Cold War enemy to the guarantor of peace and stability, it's
too good to be true.
right. Makes you wonder if we're missing something here.
It's important to be cautious, to think critically. I mean, it's tempting to jump on this new narrative, but we have to, like, really weigh the evidence, look for any biases.
Oh, for sure. I mean, we're dealing with a lot of interpretation here, speculation.
Absolutely.
But that's also what makes this whole deep dive so interesting, don't you think?
Oh, yeah. It forces you to question everything, to see the world from a different angle.
Exactly. Like, we're not just passively taking in information, we're wrestling with it.
Engaging with it.
Yes. Questioning assumptions, trying to figure things out for ourselves.
How we learn and grow.
It is. Okay, so let's zoom out a bit. We've talked about what this could mean for Ukraine, the UK, the EU, even Russia.
Yeah, pretty much everyone involved.
But what about the big picture? What could all of this mean for the whole world?
The global order, as we know it, could be completely transformed.
The end of an era.
Remember how Trump used to talk about the current system?
Oh, yeah. Outdated. Harmful to the U.S.
He wanted to shake things up. And he did. Pulling out of agreements, those tariffs, the trade wars.
He even said he wanted to cut military spending. Big time.
And those diplomatic snubs, remember? This analysis suggests they weren't just random, like
But intentional.
to weaken those old alliances and pave the way for new partnerships.
Wow. So instead of a world dominated by the U.S. and its allies,
We might be heading towards a multipolar system.
like where power is more evenly distributed.
Exactly. Could make things more balanced, maybe less volatile, but
But there are always risks.
big risks. Big changes mean big risks.
Imagine, though, no single superpower calling all the shots. Countries actually having to cooperate. Military force not being the first answer to every problem.
A lot of questions come with a system like that. How would it even work? Who would the main players be?
Right. The benefits, the drawbacks,
Yeah.
so much to consider.
It's a lot to wrap your head around, but that's what we do here, right? Explore these complex issues, look at different viewpoints, and encourage you to think critically.
Exactly. And this deep dive, it's the perfect example of how challenging those conventional ideas can lead to some really interesting insights.
New ways of understanding what's going on in the world.
So we've gone over a ton of what-ifs and all the potential consequences of this analysis.
But there's one question we haven't really tackled yet.
The most important question of all.
What does this all mean for you?
That's what we'll explore in the final part of our deep dive. All right, welcome back for the final part of our deep dive. We've been through a lot, haven't we? All these global power plays, secret deals, like a whole new world order potentially emerging. But now it's time to get down to brass tacks.
It is. We've talked about what this could mean for Ukraine, for the US, the UK, the EU, even Russia. But the question is, what does it mean for you, the listener?
Exactly. How could all this actually affect you, your life, your future?
That's what we're going to try and figure out. Now, we can't predict the future, obviously.
Of course not.
But we can explore some potential ripple effects, right? Things that might touch your life directly.
Like real-world impacts. Let's start with the economy. If this analysis we've been going over, if it's right,
Yeah.
we could be on the verge of a massive shakeup. Global trade, global finance, everything.
It's a big if.
It is, but imagine, like the U.S. dollar, it's not the king anymore. New alliances popping up. The balance of power shifting like crazy.
Yeah, it's like your purchasing power could change. Your savings, even what kind of jobs are out there.
Exactly. And knowing about this stuff, that's power, right? If we understand it, we can adapt, we can prepare.
Absolutely. And it goes beyond just the economy, too. This shift in power, it could even impact your personal security.
How so?
Well, think about it. The U.S., if they pull back their military from around the world, new alliances form, the whole geopolitical landscape changes, right?
Yeah.
Some places might get more stable. Others might see more conflict, more instability.
Right, so it's not all good.
Not necessarily, no. And then there's things like cybersecurity, data privacy, even just the flow of information.
How that could change?
In a multipolar world, yeah.
Yeah.
The rules of the game change. And we got to be ready for that.
So what can people do? It all sounds kind of overwhelming, honestly.
It can be, but instead of getting anxious, use that knowledge to empower yourself.
I like that. Empowerment, not anxiety.
Right. Understanding these shifts, it helps us adapt, prepare, maybe even thrive in this new world.
Okay, so actionable steps. Give us the rundown.
First, stay informed. Don't just rely on the usual news sources.
Go deeper.
Exactly. Look for different perspectives. Question what you hear. Do your own research.
Be skeptical.
Yes. The more you know, the better decisions you can make about your life, your future.
What else?
Diversify. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, financially, but also your skills, your knowledge.
So like learn some new languages, stuff like that?
Yeah. Build relationships with people from different cultures. Makes you more adaptable.
Makes sense.
The wider your network, the better off you'll be, no matter what happens.
Okay, I like it. Any other tips?
Don't underestimate the power of your own actions, even small ones.
What do you mean?
Get involved in your community.
Right.
Speak up about stuff you care about. Use your voice.
Make a difference.
Right. Change doesn't just happen, we make it happen, even on a small local level.
It all adds up.
Exactly. We started this whole deep dive talking about Ukraine's minerals.
Such a specific topic.
And look where we ended up. The entire global order potentially transforming.
It's crazy how connected everything is, isn't it?
It is, and it shows just how important it is to think critically, to question things.
Never stop learning.
Exactly. The future isn't set in stone, remember. We shape it with the choices we make today.
Powerful stuff. So stay curious, stay engaged.
Keep asking those tough questions.
And keep diving deep. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everybody.
We'll see you next time.